Hello, ladies and gentlemen, it's Mike here at Game From Scratch, and I've got some news I was just not expecting to drop. And that is that yesterday, Nintendo announced, for all intents and purposes, they are making a game engine for the Nintendo Switch on the Nintendo Switch. Yes, you're going to be able to develop games for your Nintendo Switch using your Nintendo Switch, using something called Game Builder Garage. Now, this is going to ship on June the 11th, so it's going to be pretty soon. Looking at about 2 months out from now, and it's going to be $30, which is very much quite reasonable. Now, I know I'm going to lose a few of you here because it's also taking a visual programming experience. But truth of the matter is, if you are developing on the Nintendo Switch, typing code is about as fun as chewing off your fingernails. It's not something I would highly recommend. Now, there are a couple things to point out here. First off, this is Nintendo, and that has two ramifications that are very negative. One towards this video, one towards the way this works. So you can see here, design and share your own games. Now, of course, that doesn't mean that you're going to be able to publish them because this is Nintendo, and they got to think of the children first. So the first thing that someone's going to do is create a game level all about dicks, and they can't have that. So it's going to use some kind of version of Friends code. Nintendo and online are just not the best. The second problem is Nintendo and YouTube are not the best either. In fact, they're the biggest pricks when it comes to takedown notices and copyright claims of gameplay footage. So I'm going to be very sparse in what I show you from their demonstration video, because if this shows up on Content ID, who knows what Nintendo will do. So I'm not going to give it the opportunity. But what you can see here is it uses a visual approach. So you've got things here like the Joy-Con stick controls the left and right movement on the variable person. And a lot of this is going to come down to how much assets are in the game. And truth of the matter is, this is a pretty big install. So I'm thinking it's going to ship with quite a bit. And then you can see the end result of the game there. More connections here. So they're hooking up the B button and the stick to various different attributes on the person. Now, what's interesting, so you can create a number of objects in your world. Here, you're basically creating a level out of those objects. We move on, and you're going to see a list of all of the various different nodes or things in your programming graph. And I honestly find they're pretty. There's a nice drawing to them, and I cannot intuit what 90% of these are. So a few of them, is that a Boolean or a conditional? I don't know. Here's adding. That's a loop, I'm guessing. Comparison maybe, but for a lot of these, I have no idea what they're doing. They're not really the most intuitive set of icons I've ever seen, but these are what you will ultimately use to program the logic of your game. And then we've got some lessons that will actually walk you through. There are a number of different game types that they're going to showcase how to use. So this is an actual tutorial that will play on your device that shows you how to create your own game. So if you're like a kid looking to get started in programming, this could be an excellent option. And as you can see here, there's also some tooling here for creating graphics directly on the device. Now, I don't think there's going to be a 3D modeling tool, but hey, I don't know. I have no idea. But you can see here, there are some tools also being shown here as well. So that is it. Now, one of those things, people like to dump on visual programming, and that's just, I don't know, it's kind of the modern form of elitism. Programming in a visual manner, you're still learning the same concepts. You're still learning a game loop, program flow, logic gates, state machines. You're just doing it in a different manner. And to be honest, I mentioned this earlier on, you don't want to code on a Nintendo Switch. Writing code using a Joy-Con is not fun. But there are other options out there, and we're going to cover them later on in this video. Also, there is definitely an inspiration. Game Builder Garage didn't come out of nowhere, and we're going to look at that in just a second here. But let's finish off what we know here. So it's going to come with a number of different templates, guided lessons that walk you through 7 different games. And as you can see here, from a variety of types, so there's a tag game, a ball rolling game, and a 3D racing style game. So you're going to have a decent amount of content in there to work with. And again, there is the stuff for creating your own things in 2D. No idea when it comes to 3D, however. So you can see here, learn programming new is like gaining a new power-up, helps you understand the basics of visual programming in a fun and memorable way. So it's gamified the learning of coding. Here you can see ready to take the lead, let your imagination, curiosity run wild in free programming where the sky's the limit. This is basically where you can create your own game. So here you can see the other games that are available. So there's Thrill Race, Mystery Room, an Endless Runner, an Alien Shooter, a rolling game, and that tag game I mentioned earlier on. So add Nodon to your programming screen to decide how they interact to bring your game to life. You can even choose the music or an exciting theme. Playing around with Nodon might just give you a great idea or two. And then, of course, Nintendo and online, they don't make any sense. So you share your games using codes. Yeah. So that kind of limits it for sure. It's definitely one of those things for yourself only. Someone will probably set up a site or an exchange for exchanging the codes out there. But yeah, Nintendo and online, it's still 1996 in Nintendo Land. I don't get it. Now, the interesting thing here is it is 10.5 gigabytes in size. And for a Switch title, that is actually quite significantly huge. You also see here it supports handheld mode, tabletop mode, and TV mode. So that's really all we kind of know at this point in time. So I said this came from somewhere, and the answer to somewhere is Nintendo Labo. Now, Nintendo Labo is Nintendo being their weirdest, and it's really kind of cool, but it's a number of projects, kind of like those science discovery kits you can buy at like Scholastica and those kind of stores, and you build things out of cardboard that you can then interact with Nintendo, either the Switch controllers or the Nintendo Switch itself, to make things, programmable things. It's a really kind of a weird science project things out of cardboard. And the logic of it is something called Toy-Con Garage. And I believe there's also Toy-Con Garage VR. And this is how you program the Toy-Con. And I guarantee you the Garage, this new product is based on Toy-Con Garage. They share the name Garage. I bet you this is where it came from. Basically, take the same logic, but add a layer of prettiness or polish on top of it. And I think that's how this product evolved. Now, I mentioned to start the video that there are other options out there, but I got to warn you straight out. Both of these, you are going to want to have a keyboard, probably hooked up to, you're going to want to be hooked up to a TV with a keyboard and a mouse. That's what's going to make these usable. Coding on a console using a gamepad is hell. Now, the first one we're looking at here, Fuse, their website is a little underwhelming. It's actually very Spartan, like it was from 1996. But you can see here a full game interface available to you. You have an editor. I'm not sure you're going to want to. You're going to probably want to hook up a keyboard. But there is a specialized programming touch keyboard there. It's got its own programming language. The programming language is a mashup of a number of different languages. They describe them at the top here. It was C, Python, and Basic, I think. Basically, it's a mashup of those programming languages, but it's its own programming environment here. It's got tutorials to walk you through it. This is much more of a traditional coding setup, but there is a level editor built in there as well. So there's Fuse as an option out there, and it ships with 10,000 assets, 2D, 3D audio, etc., for a number of different genres that you can work from. And I believe you can actually build your game out. Plus, there are tools here, a tile map editor, an image and sprite editor, and a synthesizer for creating sound and music. The other option out there is Smile Basic 4. Now, Smile Basic has been around for a very long time. I think it goes back to the Nintendo Saturn. The Sega Saturn. And it's the same kind of concept. It is a visual programming language. This is quite literally a basic for games that runs on the Nintendo Switch. And some of the games you can actually see that have been created with it are pretty impressive. So this is kind of the whole idea of a low-level, fast coding environment out there. Much different approach. This is not something that you give to a child. This is pretty much, if you want a programming language on your Switch as like a more pro-level coder, Smile Basic is more what you are looking for there. So there are other options out there. There's Smile Basic from Smile Boom, and then there is Fuse. So those are the two options out there. Fuse is more aimed at teaching kids to code. It's going to also probably be the most impacted by the Game Builder Garage. But those are two alternative options out there. Both of those, though, even though Fuse has a programmer touch keyboard, I can't imagine it's fun to work with. It's kind of like trying to code on an iPad or an Android device. It's just painful. You're going to want to have an external keyboard of some kind hooked up, but both of those programs allow that. Whereas Game Builder Garage, dyslexia hit me hard today, it takes and embraces 100% the visual programming, and on this environment, visual programming makes sense, especially when you're aiming it at kids. Now, it's going to be interesting, the level of functionality that actually comes in this, and again, the level of content that comes with this. How many tools are you going to get? Are you going to get a music creation tool? What about 3D? I don't know what you're going to get. All I know is there's that 2D/texture editor out there. So I imagine you're going to be able to skin 3D objects, but I don't know anything beyond that. So I, like you, am going to be waiting till June the 11th to check this one out. But if you have like a child in your life that you want to introduce to into game programming, this is a good introduction. And quite frankly, I know, again, I started off by saying this, visual programming is still programming. If you learn the concept of a loop, the idea of learning how to write it out in code as opposed to dragging and dropping it onto the screen isn't that hard. You are learning valuable skills with something like this, especially for a child level person. And if you want to work at on the go, I think of the three, this is the only real option. So it's an interesting project. Going to be interesting to see where it goes. Again, it is Nintendo, so they're going to do their best to ruin it. Online is going to be awful, and they're probably only going to support it for like 2 years. Then they're going to take it down. So we will see. But let me know what you think. Game Builder Garage coming June the 11th for $30. All right, that's it. A video I was not expecting to make. Let me know what you think. Comments down below, and I will talk to you all later. Goodbye.